The Anglo Zanzibar War, a war that lasted less than an hour and the victory was one-sided, yet this 1896 standoff between the British Royal Navy and the stubborn Sultan is commonly cited as the shortest war on record. Today, Zanzibar is a semi-autonomous island nation off the coast of Tanzania in the Indian Ocean, but in the 19th century the Sultanate of Zanzibar was a very powerful trading empire in East Africa. From the ports of Zanzibar, ships departed with ivory and spices and returned with textile and guns. But the most lucrative trade in Zanzibar was of enslaved Africans. An estimated 25 to 30,000 enslaved peoples were sold and shipped out of Zanzibar, and the Sultan of Zanzibar, who ruled from the royal palace, grew rich from the slave trade. But the bad time was yet to start for the Sultan of Zanzibar. In 1890, Britain signed a treaty with Germany that carved out separate zones of influence for the two imperial nations in Africa. And with this treaty, Zanzibar became a British protectorate. A British protectorate is not quite like a colony but still under the thumb of British government and British military. After claiming Zanzibar as a protectorate, the British wanted to install a sultan to put an end to the Zanzibar slave trade and generally do Britain's bidding in the region. Their choice was Hamid bin Thuwaini, a pro-British puppet who became the fifth sultan of Zanzibar in 1893. Thuwaini ruled for 3 years but died unexpectedly on August 25, 1896. Rumors had it that he was poisoned by his nephew Khalid bin Barghash, who immediately installed himself in the palace as the next Sultan of Zanzibar. The British didn't like Barghash. He was too independent and not willing to roll over the British demands. But the British didn't wanted that, so the British government engaged in a popular 19th century practice called gunboat diplomacy, in which the British pointed the cannons of 3 naval warships at the palace and politely asked the new Sultan to leave by 9 am. Barghash wasn't going anywhere. He rolled out heavy artillery guns and posted thousands of defenders, in which mostly were civilians and slaves. When the clock struck 9 am, the British made good on their promise. The warships opened fire, relentlessly shelling the palace. It took just 38 minutes or 42 or 45 minutes by some accounts for the Sultan's defenses to be completely destroyed. But by that time Barghash himself was long gone. 2 minutes after the start of the bombardment, he fled the palace and sought refuge at the German consulate. Khalid was later smuggled out by the German navy and taken to what is now Tanzania. But for such a short war, there were a large number of casualties. Roughly 500 Zanzibarian fighters lost their lives in the shelling, yet just one British sailor was wounded. With Barghash gone, the British installed a new sultan who immediately outlawed the slave trade in Zanzibar in 1897. And Zanzibar again came under the British thumb. And in today's time, the Zanzibar port city is known as Stone Town, where the Sultan's palace still stands, and the Sultan Palace is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this is the story of the shortest war on record, the war that lasted less than an hour, the war which is known to be as a 38-minute war.